There was a car inside Madison Square Garden. Not parked outside on the street. Not in a garage nearby. Inside. On the floor of the arena. A cherry red 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle Super Sport, with a custom license plate that read, Just Anti-MRD. It was sitting inside a secret garden that had been built where a basketball court usually is, surrounded by 5-story glowing trees and thousands of flowers and 1,100 people in black tie, and someone won it. Someone at Taylor Swift's wedding won a vintage car in a raffle. And Robert Pattinson, one of the most famous actors in the world, learned about all of this on a red carpet 6 days later and said, and these are his exact words, "What did I get?" He missed it. He was filming Batman. His fiancée, Suki Waterhouse, went without him. She had already told a reporter in May that she was going to Taylor's wedding, quote, and maybe I'll get some inspiration. She got the inspiration. He got nothing. Not the Chevelle. Not the Cartier watch. Not the Chanel bag. Not any of it. Because there are things about this wedding, details, facts, moments, choices, that got buried under the wave of headline coverage and did not get the attention they deserved. Things that reveal who Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce actually are. Things that confirm what the relationship is really built on. Things that answer questions that nobody thought to ask because everyone was looking at the 5-story trees and the Dior gowns. Today we are going back. We are going through this wedding detail by detail and finding the things that got missed. And some of what we find is going to change the way you understand this entire story. Let's start with the invitation. Because the invitation, which was supposed to be the most airtight secret object in recent celebrity history, ended up telling the world everything it needed to know. And it did it in a way that was, honestly, perfectly on brand for this couple. Ashish Ferguson. That name. Remember it. He is the brother of Kumar Ferguson, who has been Travis Kelce's private chef for a decade. Which means Ashish is connected to Travis through the most intimate possible route, not through professional associations or industry connections, but through the person who makes the food in Travis Kelce's home. His brother cooks Travis Kelce's meals. That is about as close as you can get to someone without being family. So Ashish got an invitation. A beautiful one. The invitation was minimal and perfect, exactly 5 words and 2 names printed across the front. You're invited. July 3rd, 2026. Manhattan. Love, Taylor and Travis. That was the whole thing. No venue name. No dress code on the front page. No flowery language or elaborate design. Just the date, the city, and their names. Clean. Decisive. Theirs. And every single invitation was watermarked with the recipient's name, invisibly, in the background of the paper, so that if any invitation appeared anywhere online, the source could be identified immediately and precisely. And Ashish posted his on Instagram, in a roundup of July 4th weekend photos. And it was deleted. But not before the internet captured it in screenshots. And the watermark in the background, his name, printed invisibly across the surface of the paper, was visible in the screenshots. I guess we forgot about the NDA, someone commented. Is that the invitation? It's beautiful, wrote someone else. Did Taylor like her leaks? That's a death sentence, said a third. The last commenter understood the system. The watermark worked exactly as intended. If Taylor Swift's team pulled up the photo, they knew immediately and precisely which envelope had been opened to the public. The invitation security system did not fail. It succeeded. It identified the leak to the source with 0 ambiguity. But here is the thing about the invitation that got less attention than the NDA drama around it. The thing itself. 5 words. You're invited. July 3rd, 2026. Manhattan. No exclamation point. No elaborate font. No thematic design chosen to hint at the decor inside. Just information. Enough information to confirm the date and the city. Not enough to confirm the venue. The invitation told you when and where in the most general sense, and trusted that if you were supposed to know the rest, you would be told the rest through other channels. It was the most minimal possible document for the most maximal possible event. That restraint is Taylor Swift all the way. The woman who crafts her album announcements like encrypted messages, who embeds Easter eggs in album covers and music videos and spoken-word interludes, who has turned the art of controlled information release into a 2-decade practice. When she was finally sending out invitations for her own wedding, She gave people the minimum. Just enough. Not a word more. The orange carpet. This is the detail that the casual observer missed entirely and that every dedicated Swiftie already understood on a molecular level, but it deserves to be said aloud for the record. The first photograph from inside the wedding, the image shared by personal trainer Rob Jordan and his wife Joanne on the morning of July 4th, showed Taylor and Travis climbing a staircase together, hand in hand, in their Dior looks. And the carpet on that staircase was orange. Not just any orange. A rich, warm, specific shade that Taylor Swift's entire fan community recognized immediately. Because that color had been the visual centerpiece of her 12th studio album, The Life of a Showgirl, released in October 2025. The album artwork was soaked in it. The marketing campaign was defined by it. The rollout imagery used it as its signature. Orange. Taylor Swift described the color's significance when promoting the album. She said it feels like energetically how my life has felt. The album that announced she was in love and engaged and stepping into the next era of her life was visually coded in orange. And when she built her wedding inside Madison Square Garden, the carpet was orange. Not because the florist happened to have orange carpet. Because she chose it. Because the wedding was still the showgirl era. Because the energy of this album, the joy, the certainty, the sense of arriving, was the energy she wanted to walk through when she became a wife. She walked up an orange carpet in a white Dior gown into the most important moment of her life. And she had been telling the world this was coming since October 2025, in the color of an album she named after the life she was already living. There were orange armchairs photographed being removed from the venue on the morning of July 4th. There were orange flowers in the floral arrangements. The orange wasn't accent. It was intentional and pervasive, and it pointed directly, for anyone who was paying attention, to an album about a woman who has found her life and is living it fully. They missed it. Or they saw it and didn't connect it. But it was there. She put it there. Now let's talk about something that came out of this wedding that has almost nothing to do with the wedding itself, and everything to do with what this relationship means for Taylor Swift's future. October 2025. Taylor Swift is on BBC Radio 2. She is promoting the life of a showgirl. Host Scott Mills, in what he later described as a genuine curiosity rather than a provocative question, asks her something. He asks whether this album might be her last one. Because fans had been saying it. There was a theory circulating, and when Taylor Swift fans have a theory, the word circulating does not capture the scale of it, that this album was a farewell. That Taylor was getting married and would retire to build a life with Travis and the music would simply stop. Scott Mills said the words to her face. Gently. Framing it as something fans were worried about. And Taylor Swift's face did something specific. She made a face. She said, "What? No." And then, before Scott could fully explain the theory, she said something that she clearly felt deeply and immediately. That's a shockingly offensive thing to say. Shockingly offensive. Not incorrect. Not sweet but misguided. Shockingly offensive. She continued, that's not why people get married. So that they can quit their jobs. Stop there. Read that sentence again. That's not why people get married. So that they can quit their jobs. In those 14 words, Taylor Swift articulated something that cuts to the absolute center of what is wrong with how the world thinks about women and ambition and relationships. The idea that marriage, for a woman, is a conclusion, that it represents the end of the striving phase, the achievement of the real goal, after which the career was just something she was doing to pass the time. The idea that she would look at 36 years of life-defining artistic work and say, yes, I'm done with that now, I found someone to marry. She called it offensive because it is. And then she said something that explains everything about why Travis Kelce is the right person for her in a way that no description of the relationship has quite captured. She said, I love the person that I am with because he loves what I do, and he loves how much I am fulfilled by making art and making music. He loves how much she is fulfilled by it. Not just the music itself. The fulfillment. He loves watching her be fulfilled by her work the way she loves watching him be fulfilled by his. And then she said, that's the coolest thing about Trav. He's so passionate about what he does that me being passionate about what I do, it connects us. It connects them. The passion itself is the connection. Not despite the demanding careers. Not around them. Through them. And she went further, There's no point in time where he's gonna be like, I'm really upset that you're still making music. The music thing that I signed up for, that I knew you love, I thought you were going to stop doing that. She said this with the comedic timing of someone demonstrating the absurdity of a scenario by performing it. Imagining Travis Kelce, the man who made friendship bracelets and went on a podcast to tell the world he wanted to date her, the man who understands the relationship between passion and performance on a cellular level, being upset that she is still making the music he fell in love with her while she was making. It is, as she said, unimaginable. This moment, this interview, this specific response to this specific question, tells you more about their relationship than the Dior gowns or the Paul McCartney performance or the gold books or the sweep you off your feet kiss. It tells you that the foundation is mutual respect for each other's work. That the love is not despite the ambition, it is partly because of it. That Travis Kelce watched Taylor Swift be Taylor Swift and found her more compelling, not less. And she found the same in him. The most fun thing in the world, she said, is being able to support each other. The headphone imprint. This is the detective moment. The Swiftie moment. The moment where the fandom demonstrated, once again, that they will decode every piece of information available with a precision that intelligence agencies should find genuinely alarming. When Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift posted their engagement announcement on August 26, 2025, 5 photographs were shared. The ring. The garden. Travis on one knee. Taylor holding his face. All of that was noticed and analyzed immediately. But then someone noticed something else. In one of the engagement photos, you can see an imprint in Taylor Swift's hair. The specific, unmistakable indent that headphones leave when you wear them for an extended period. The kind of circular pressure mark that sits just above the ear, that takes an hour or two to fade. Taylor's hair had headphone marks. And the Swiftie community looked at those marks and came to a conclusion in approximately 4 minutes. The proposal happened immediately after they finished recording the New Heights podcast episode. She had been wearing headphones during the recording, and the imprint was still visible in engagement photos because not enough time had passed for it to fade. Travis confirmed this on the New Heights season finale on July 8, 2026. He said, "During that recording, the entire time, I'm planning I'm gonna ask this woman to marry me after this." He called the episode, "One I'll Remember Forever." The fans knew before he said it. They saw the headphone marks. They did the math. They were right. There is something wonderful about the fact that an engagement was discovered, the timing of it, the sequence of events, through headphone indentations in a woman's hair. It is the most specific, most human, most accidentally documentary detail imaginable. The evidence of love that wasn't planted as an Easter egg. Just the ordinary physical trace of a person who was wearing headphones and then went outside and got proposed to before the marks faded. The bouquet toss. Because it happened, and who caught it is a detail worth knowing. Taylor Swift threw a bouquet. And it was caught by Ashley Smith. Not a celebrity name. Not someone you would recognize. Ashley Smith is the sister of Trey Smith, an offensive lineman for the Kansas City Chiefs. She attended the wedding through that connection. Her brother's team, her brother's teammate, one of the 100 Chiefs-adjacent people who filled that room on July 3rd. And she walked away with Taylor Swift's bouquet. She posted about it on Instagram, celebrated an enchanting love TNT, Ori, and somehow I ended up catching Tay-Tay's bouquet. She used the nickname Tay-Tay. The same nickname Travis Kelce shouted at the end of the Eras tour when he was waiting for her under the stage. The nickname that says, "We are in the inner circle, we know this person, this is just how we talk about her." And then there was the raffle. Let's come back to the raffle properly. Because the raffle at Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding is one of the most beautifully absurd details to emerge from any celebrity event in recent memory. And it tells you something specific about what kind of party they threw. They didn't just give guests a handkerchief with, "So it's gonna be forever," embroidered on it and call it a night. They set up arcade games. They brought in a cherry red vintage car and parked it inside the arena floor. And then they gave guests raffle tickets, pink raffle tickets, printed with the TNT logo, marked "Winner" for the lucky ones, and held a raffle. The prizes: Cartier watches, Chanel handbags, Dior handbags, and the 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle Super Sport. This is the guest experience at Taylor Swift's wedding. You watch Paul McCartney perform a song he hasn't sung in 62 years, you receive a custom embroidered handkerchief with a lyric from blank space, and then you have a chance to win a vintage car. Drew Tranquill's wife Jackie, Tranquill being a Kansas City Chiefs player, posted a photo of her winning black Chanel bag with a pink raffle ticket beside it. Winner! She won! She went home from Taylor Swift's wedding with a Chanel bag she won at a raffle. And Robert Pattinson found out about all of this on a red carpet for the Odyssey premiere 6 days later. He was asked why he didn't attend. He said, "I was working. I was shooting Batman this morning." And then someone told him about the prizes. And his face did something. And he said, "They were giving away lots of stuff? What did I get?" What did he get? He got nothing. He was filming Batman. His fiancée went without him, wearing a jaw-dropping silver sequined look, and attended with singer King Princess as her companion, and she got the inspiration she said she was going to get. He got a set call. There is a reading of this story in which Robert Pattinson is the funniest person involved with Taylor Swift's wedding despite never attending it. Now let's talk about something that happened before the wedding that set the emotional tone for everything that followed. And it involves a woman who was not at the wedding. A woman whose absence, at an event with 1,100 guests, was noticed the moment the guest list started to become clear. Blake Lively. The godmother story. Because there are layers here that the coverage did not fully explore. Blake Lively and Taylor Swift were close friends for over a decade. And during that friendship, Taylor Swift became the godmother to Blake's son Caius. A godmother. A specific, spiritually and practically significant role. Not just a famous friend. A godmother. And then came the Justin Baldoni legal battle. The It Ends With Us lawsuit. Blake's name and Taylor's name ended up tangled in legal proceedings that Taylor wanted no part of. A subpoena was issued to Taylor. The subpoena was later withdrawn. But the friendship, according to multiple sources, cracked under the strain. And Taylor felt, as sources described it, massively betrayed. Blake Lively was not at the wedding. And Taylor Swift's godmother role to Blake's children has reportedly faded. And Jamie King, another close friend, whose son Leo Thames Taylor is also listed as a godparent to, also missed the wedding, according to reports. Two godparent relationships. Both strained or ended. Simultaneously. Around the same period. The wedding guest list was not just a collection of people Taylor Swift likes. It was a map of which relationships survived the last 3 years. The 1,000 people inside were the ones who made it through. And the names notably absent were the ones who didn't. This is not a gossip point. It is a character study. It tells you that Taylor Swift, for all her fame and for all the spectacle of this wedding, builds her life on loyalty. And when loyalty fails, when she feels betrayed by someone she chose as the godmother of a child, she responds not with public drama but with private restructuring. The relationship fades. The invitation doesn't come. And the world only knows because of who wasn't there. Now here is something that almost nobody discussed in the immediate coverage of the wedding and its aftermath. Something said in December 2025, 7 months before the ceremony, that landed differently once the ceremony happened. Taylor Swift appeared on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. It was a promo appearance, one of many during the life of a showgirl album cycle. And Colbert asked her about Travis. And she called him, "the love of my life." On national television. On a late-night show. The love of my life. Not my fiancé. Not the person I'm going to marry. The love of my life. Which is a specific claim. It is not a description of a romantic status. It is a description of a permanent condition. The love of my life says, this is the one, there is no version of the story where this changes, this is the person against whom all other loves are measured and found smaller. She said it in December 2025. 7 months before the wedding. In December, when the ceremony was still months away, when the venue was still being watermarked and the invitations were still being prepared and the 5-story trees were still being ordered. She already knew. She had already decided. The love of my life. Past tense in its certainty. Not I think this is it. The love of my life. And then on July 3, 2026, she went to Madison Square Garden and told him so. In 20 minutes of vows. From a gold book. Including the part she sang. Now let's talk about something that is small and wonderful and got swallowed by bigger headlines. Donna Kelce. Travis's mother. Donna Kelsey has been one of the most visible and beloved figures in the Taylor Travis story since the very beginning. She was in the suite at Arrowhead Stadium the first time Taylor came to a game in September 2023. The cameras found her. She smiled. She sat next to Taylor, and the image of the two of them went everywhere. She has been at games and events and public moments throughout the entire relationship, and she has always handled the attention with grace and warmth and a very specific kind of Kansas City realness that cannot be faked. After the wedding, Donna Kelsey was asked about the night. And she said, not in a prepared statement, not in a crafted quote, she said, "It was magical, man, magical. Magical, man, magical." The man in the middle of that sentence is everything. It is the verbal equivalent of a hand on your shoulder. It is someone saying something so true that the only word adequate to bridge the feeling is an informal exclamation of human connection. Magical is the noun. Man is the acknowledgement that you're talking to someone you trust. Magical, man, magical. That is a mother describing her son's wedding. And she has loved this from the beginning. From the first game, from the first sweet appearance, from every moment that the public has watched Donna Kelsey be completely, uncomplicatedly happy for her son and the woman he chose. Donna Kelsey has been one of the genuine emotional centers of this story. Not a peripheral figure. A constant. The first family member the world saw Taylor with. The person who was there when it was still new and uncertain and public and scrutinized. And she was there on July 3rd. Inside the garden. When it was permanent and certain and private and sealed. Magical, man, magical. There is one more thing. One detail that I saved for last because it is the one that lands hardest when you understand the full context of this relationship and everything that led to this moment. The invitation wording. You're invited. July 3rd, 2026. Manhattan. Love, Taylor and Travis. Love. They signed the invitation with love. Not sincerely. Not formally. Not with their full names in standard wedding invitation format. Love. Taylor and Travis. An invitation to a wedding, signed with the word love. This is a woman who has written songs about love for 20 years. Who has searched for the right word for every version of the feeling. Who has described falling in love and being in love and falling out of love and the specific pain of losing it and the specific joy of finding it again. Who has built a career on the precise articulation of emotion. And when it came time to invite the most important people in her life to the most important day of her life, she signed it with the simplest word available. Love. The word she has been explaining in songs since she was 14. The word that, after all the elaboration and the searching and the albums and the tours and the bracelets and the podcast and the sweaty palms in a Kansas garden, after all of it, turned out to be exactly enough. Love. Taylor and Travis. That is the real story behind this wedding. Not the Dior or the car in the raffle or the headphone imprint or the orange carpet or the shockingly offensive BBC interview. The real story is that two people, who could have built something more complicated, chose simplicity where it mattered. They signed their invitations with love. They chose their brothers as their attendants. They had a raffle. They put a vintage car on the floor. They made a woman in Ohio feel like she needed to drive 12 hours to be near it. And they wrote in a song long before any of this, "It's gonna be forever." On an embroidered handkerchief. At a raffle at Madison Square Garden. In orange. In love. Stay with us. Because there is always more to this story. Let me go back to something that slipped past almost everyone. Something Travis Kelce said in the days after the wedding that reveals exactly how seriously this couple took the trust required to make the event work. Travis Kelce addressed the leaks. Not defensively. Not aggressively. But with a directness that makes the message unmistakable. Multiple reports confirmed that Taylor and Travis's team is actively monitoring who broke their NDAs. Who posted. Who talked to reporters. Whose invitation appeared on someone's Instagram story. And Travis's response, when asked about guests who had shared details, "Trust is everything." 3 words. Trust is everything. From a man who has spent his entire professional life in a locker room, where the bond between teammates is built precisely on the understanding that what happens inside stays inside. He knows what it means for trust to be the foundation of a group. He knows what happens when someone breaks it. And he said it plainly, for the record, so that anyone who attended his wedding and shared more than they should have would understand exactly where they stand. Trust is everything. This is not a legal threat. It is something more pointed than that. It is a value statement from a person who has always been, at his core, about loyalty. The man who spent over a decade with one team, one coaching staff, one organization. The man who went on a podcast and said the true embarrassing thing because honesty mattered more than optics. The man who built a proposal around making sure the moment was completely sealed from the outside world until he was ready. Trust is everything. And the people who broke it know who they are, because Taylor's team has the watermarked invitations and a very clear picture of what information came from where. Let me tell you about something that happened on a talk show that has been almost entirely forgotten in the rush of wedding coverage, but that I think is one of the most revealing moments of the entire pre-wedding period. Graham Norton, the beloved Irish-British talk show host, who told a reporter in May 2026 that he had signed so many NDAs for the wedding, and the quote immediately became a headline. Graham Norton confirms NDAs at Taylor Swift wedding. The internet ran with it. And then Graham Norton clarified. On his own podcast, he said, "I said that as a joke on the podcast. I said, oh, I've signed all these NDAs, and then it started getting reported as a serious thing in America. I didn't say cut that out because I thought it was so obviously a joke." He was joking. He thought everyone would know he was joking. He found it baffling that the joke had been reported as fact. But here is the part that isn't a joke. Taylor Swift had told Graham Norton, during an appearance on his show, that he would know when the wedding was happening. She said, "You'll know. I was going to invite you to it." She said that on television, on his show, to his face, in front of his studio audience. "I was going to invite you to it." Present perfect progressive tense. She's going to invite him. Future plan stated as fact. And Graham Norton was, in fact, there. He attended the wedding. He was one of the roughly 1,000 people inside Madison Square Garden on July 3, 2026. The man she told on television that she was going to invite showed up at the actual wedding. The joke about NDAs was a joke. The invitation was real. There is something delightful about the fact that Taylor Swift announced Graham Norton's invitation on his own show. That she sat in his chair and told him and his millions of viewers simultaneously that she was going to invite him to her wedding. And then she did. She is an excellent dinner party host. She just needed a slightly larger venue. Now I want to talk about the Dior Easter eggs. Because fashion reporters picked up on some of them, but the full picture of how Taylor was signaling the dress designer for months before the wedding has not been assembled in one place. The designer Jonathan Anderson took over as creative director of Dior women's, men's, and haute couture collections in early 2025. He is known for dramatic, architectural, emotionally loaded design. He has dressed some of the most significant figures in current entertainment and culture. And from very early in his tenure at Dior, Taylor Swift started appearing in his work. Not the wedding dress. The accessories. In the months leading up to the July 3rd ceremony, Taylor was spotted with multiple Dior pieces. A black Dior small D motion bag at the NBA Finals. A bright yellow mini Lady Dior bag from Anderson's Spring 2026 debut collection at a New York City dinner with family. She was, for anyone paying attention, wearing the designer's work in public repeatedly, consistently, in the way that someone wears a designer's work when they are in an ongoing creative conversation with that designer. Swiftie fashion accounts noticed. They catalogued it. They said, she is going to wear Dior to her wedding. And they were right. She was signaling it. Not subtly enough to be invisible, but subtly enough that only people who were paying very close attention would catch it before it became official. This is how Taylor Swift communicates about big things. Not in press releases. In appearances. In choices. In the handbag she carries to a family dinner and the bag she carries to a basketball game and the pattern that emerges when you look at all the choices together. She has been doing this for 20 years. Album announcements hidden in music video thumbnails. Release dates embedded in live performance set lists. The dress designer revealed through a series of accessory appearances over 6 months. She is always telling the story. You just have to know how to read it. Let's go back to the song. The Life of a Showgirl. Taylor's 12th studio album. Released October 3, 2025. And within it, multiple songs believed by fans and critics alike to be directly about Travis Kelce and about the specific experience of being in this relationship, at this stage of her life, with this person. One detail from the album promotion that deserves more attention. On The Graham Norton Show, Taylor revealed that Travis had crushed the proposal. She said simply, "He went all out, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. From Taylor Swift. The woman who grades everything, who has standards so high they have been described by collaborators as almost unreachable, who rewrote her first 6 albums from scratch because the original recordings weren't hers, she gave the proposal a 10 out of 10. The sweaty palms and the curtained windows and the podcast as cover and the garden in Leawood, Kansas. All of it amounting to a 10 out of 10 from the most demanding reviewer of all. And then she wrote an album about arriving. About the life she was stepping into. About what it feels like when the search is over and what comes next is not a conclusion but an opening. She called it The Life of a Showgirl, and she filled it with orange imagery, and she announced it on his podcast immediately after he proposed, and she walked into her wedding on a carpet that matched the album's color. Every element of this connects. Every detail points somewhere. This is not coincidence. This is an artist who lives her life as her art and her art as her life, and who chose, for the first time, to build something private inside all that visibility. And the public is only now starting to understand the full picture of what was actually built. Joseph Kahn said it best. He is the director who made several of Taylor Swift's most iconic music videos, Bad Blood, Look What You Made Me Do, others, and he attended the wedding and wrote about it on Instagram afterward. He said, "I told Latte many times it was like living in the internet. And AI would crack if it tried to render it. AI would crack if it tried to render it." That is the sentence. The wedding was so simultaneously famous and intimate, so packed with recognizable faces, so layered with cultural significance and personal history and human emotion, that the technology designed to generate reality from patterns would fail to produce it, because the pattern itself was unprecedented. AI would crack. And yet Taylor and Travis made it feel, to every person in that room, like a backyard wedding. Like their neighbors were there and their high school friends were there, and it was just a very good party for people who love each other. That is the real story. Not the car in the raffle or the orange carpet or the headphone imprint or the BBC interview or the watermarked invitation or the "trust is everything" statement or the Dior Easter eggs. The real story is that they took the most complex, most watched, most scrutinized romantic story of the last decade and turned the climax of it into something that felt, to everyone in the room, like something anyone could recognize. A garden. Brothers at the altar. Gold books. A song nobody will ever hear. A bouquet caught by a woman from Kansas City who posted about it on Instagram. A Chanel bag won at a raffle. A vintage car parked on the arena floor. An orange carpet. A word on the invitation. Love. Taylor and Travis. That is what was missed. Not any single detail. The whole picture. The way all the pieces fit together into something that was simultaneously the most spectacular event of the year and the most human gathering imaginable. They made it human. In a building that holds 20,000 people. Dressed in Christian Dior. With Paul McCartney in the room. And Donna Kelce standing somewhere in that garden in a gown, watching her son cry while his wife sang part of her vows, saying the only thing that needed to be said about all of it. Magical, man. Magical. She wasn't wrong. Stay close. More of this story is still coming.